Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear,
business consultant.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.
Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. What does it take to go from successful to sensational in business? Is there a way we can future-proof our businesses and thrive despite the environment we're operating in? Well, on this episode, we're going to explore these questions and more. Our guest has over 20 years experience at the forefront of transforming people and culture. She's an executive coach and mentor, a sought-after speaker, HR generalist, and an authority on leadership, transformation, women in leadership, culture change, and diversity. Her wider purpose is to build beautiful businesses and create workplaces that are filled with energy and passion. Please welcome the founder and managing director of METAMORPH Company, Naomi White. Naomi, it's so great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jay. It's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for that lovely introduction.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. So I have thoroughly enjoyed researching you, and you and I had an opportunity to have a conversation a while back, which there were so many points that we addressed during that conversation that resonated with me. So I'm very, very excited to dig into this conversation with you. So let's go for it. All right.
Okay.
So you have had an extensive career, and you mentioned to me in one of our prior conversations that you wanted to be a filmmaker at one point in your life. So yeah. Share with us, if you will, the journey that you've been on to the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, it's really funny how things turn out, because I never, ever thought when I was younger that I would end up in this field that I'm in. And so I was absolutely determined to be a journalist and a filmmaker, and I used to go to the Australian Broadcasting Commission after school in my senior years and work in the radio journalism department and get all involved in the production of radio and television. Loved it, absolutely loved it, and was committed to that as a path. And when I went to university, I majored in film production, and that was my path. But at the time when I came out, I couldn't get paid work in it. Like, I had heaps of volunteer work. I was building up my bank of expertise, but of course that doesn't pay the rent. And so I ended up, my father actually said to me at one point, this is unsustainable. Come work for me for a year, and just we'll see where you go from there. Mm-hmm. And then as things transpired, I then thought, actually, I think I might start studying law for a while, and then did that for a while and thought, actually, I'm never going to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. And it's a very Australian tradition at that point, when you're feeling a little bit directionless, to throw on a backpack, jump on a plane, and go as far away from Australia as possible. So I went on a trip to London, stopped in Canada to learn to ski because I'd never seen snow, and got to London, and it was in my first week there that I walked into a recruitment agency and said, I need a job. And I found myself plonked at a major airline running their graduate development program, like leading a team that ran the operations of this massive graduate development program. It was a leadership role, never led people. It was so stressful. And I had this team of people that weren't very committed to the role. They'd arrive late, they'd leave early. They didn't work very hard. They certainly weren't focused on quality or customer service. And there was a lot of errors being made. And I used to have to front up to management once a week and explain why my team was so ineffective and why they were causing all these mistakes that were costing the airline money. And I would go into this meeting and I would apologize and I would say all the right things. And I would go in the bathroom, burst into tears, clean myself up, go back out and go, right, here's what we're going to do. So if I was to, with my older, wiser self, I would go back into that team and I would know exactly what to do. But at the time, I was just scrambling, working all hours, trying to get this sorted. It was the most incredible training ground. And I came back to Australia after that and ended up heading into a similar people and culture field. And then my career has taken off from there. And I had a moment in time where I thought, I wanted to be creative. I wanted to be in a creative industry. How did I find myself here? Because my career has been largely in financial services since then, with consulting in other industries. But in terms of my executive roles, it's been in financial services. And then it dawned on me some years later that actually I had so much license to be creative, probably more so. I had budgets to play with, and I had an absolute ability to create in the context of taking a team or a department or an organization from, okay, good, doing fine, to something amazing, where everybody wanted to be there, where all the business metrics were trending in the right direction, where the customers were happy, when it was efficient and productive and people are engaged and there was a real buzz about the place. And the journey from A to B was a creative one. And when I realized that, it took all the pressure off. And I thought, I'm probably going to earn more money than had I been a filmmaker at the start of my career. Maybe if I made it to Hollywood, it might be different. But I think for a lot of filmmakers, it's a tough road financially. And I love it because I love business. And I love seeing what's possible. And I think that creative start and my particular gifts in that area, if I can call it that, is that I can see the possibilities in things. I can see a blank canvas and I can see what it can become. And I just intuitively know which levers to pull to make it something really special.
Yeah, I love how you were able to match the creative desires that you had and being able to take those skills and those gifts that you have and be able to apply those in all areas of life and your career professionally as well as personally. I want you to unpack one thing for us, though. Mm-hmm. If we go back to when you went to London, it was really a journey of self-discovery.
Oh, without a doubt.
So tell me, why did you feel it was necessary to take the trip at that point? If you can think back in time a bit, what was going on in your life that you felt you needed to connect with? And then before you secured the job with the airline, what did you discover about yourself?
Yeah, great questions. So at that point, I'd reached a crossroads. So I was in my early 20s. I was living with somebody who it wasn't going that well, like a romantic relationship. I didn't want to be the type of woman that stays with someone that's, not treating them well or whatever. And I wanted to find out who I was. I'd hit a point where I thought this was where I was going in my career. I thought it was film, then I thought it was law. Actually, it's neither. What am I doing? Who am I? Where am I going? I just have to get away. And, as I said earlier, it's such an Australian thing, or it used to be. I don't know, post-COVID, it might be different. But we Australians, as young people, love to just take off and then come back. And so it was my way of going out into the world. And I went by myself, which was absolutely terrifying. I'd never been overseas. I got on a plane and I landed briefly in Honolulu, and I had 24 hours there. And I remember being utterly terrified. Didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was doing, and then got back on the plane and got to London. So it was a bit of a start of a big adventure. In terms of, what was the second question again?
And what did you discover about yourself?
Right. Yeah. I think the main thing was how, what I remember was the fear when I got over there. It was like fear of not knowing anybody, fear of being on my own, fear of having no money. When I first got there, I started doing some waitressing, and the pay was appalling. It was like £2 an hour. And I think I was getting shifts of 3 hours or something. And so I was getting £6, like the tube trip would cost me half of that. And it was this terror of like, what am I going to do? And what it forced me to do was fall back on, come on, you can do this. You've got enough. You've got enough already. You need to just take a step. Stop being paralyzed with fear. You made this decision. Go out and make something happen. So I put myself into a very disciplined state. So I started going to the local swimming pool every day. So it's like, get in there, get some exercise, get your energy up, get out there, start getting jobs. So I learned I was stronger than I thought I was, that anything is possible and everything will always be okay. But you've got to take the first step and you've got to put some discipline in place in order to get there. They're probably the main things.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because it's something that I'm sure many of us can relate to. Maybe not necessarily taking the trip to another country, although that we certainly know that happens quite a bit, but wanting to discover more about who we are and working hard to overcome self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and really trying to get some clarity on our lives and find out and connect with what is our purpose, right? Mm-hmm. So it's amazing that not only were you able to do that, but within a relatively short period of time, that opportunity presented itself. And here you are in a very high level leadership position. Mm. And that it's incredible how things have a tendency to work out that way. Yeah. So you started your own business when? What year?
So I came out on my own in 2017 and I started it properly in 2018. So it's probably been, so I ended my corporate career at the end of 2016. I had some time off because I had some health issues that I had to deal with.
Okay.
And other things going on in my life. And then I set it up in 2018. So I've been going for about 3 years, which isn't a very long time when you go to work for yourself out of a corporate career. And it sounds like it is, but I remember when I first came out on my own, people who were seasoned in this field would say, yeah, it takes about 3 years to set up a business. And I'd be going, I don't have 3 years. There's no way it's going to take me 3 years. And then realizing it's not the getting of work that takes the 3 years. It's the clarity around who you are and what you stand for and what is the value proposition that you bring and how do you position yourself as somebody that can come in and sort something out, take something from A to B, versus somebody that's used to working in the system, in an organization as an employee. So it has taken about 3 years. It's taken 3 years to feel like, yeah, I kind of get what I'm about now. But it's still a journey. I still have days where sometimes people ask me what I do and it's not as coherent as it should be, even after three years or whatever's going on today.
But you make such an important point, though, and that's one that I'm hoping everyone that's listening to this understands, that starting a business, it's a process and it takes time. Even when we go into it with the best of intentions, and even if we have processes and systems and we have things planned out with a solid business plan, it still takes time to build, especially if you have not built a business before organically. And you came from a corporate career, which is similar to what I did. And so I feel you. I understand where you're coming from. What was the catalyst for you in starting your own business? So you had a successful corporate career. You make the decision that you're going to go off on your own and hang your own shingle. What was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, it was a few things. I had a lot going on in my personal life at the time. I was in the middle of a marriage breakdown and my mother got very sick with cancer. And I was in this very big role which traveled a lot. And I was finding there was less and less joy in it for me. And I was tired, really tired. And there was another big reorganization, and I thought, I just think I want to just go. I think I've done my time. I've done my time here. And so I was successful in being able to exit the organization. And then immediately I came out, I discovered I needed major surgery, which I didn't know I needed. So it was like a whole lot of things happened in a very tight space of time. And what I think is interesting about it, looking back on it, is I work with change. I love change, and I'm a specialist in organizational change, and I love the diversity and moving around to different things. But no one could have prepared me for how destabilizing it is to have every foundation of your life gone at the same time. So it was really, really a very, very tough period, and it forced me to go inwards and really think about what I wanted. And so when I came out the other side, I thought, actually, I don't want to go back into a job. I want to actually be much more present as a parent. I want to be much more focused on my health and well-being. I want some diversity. I want to get out there and see some different industries that perhaps I'm not as familiar with. I want to rebuild my network. I want to reconnect with my girlfriends that, I've been fallen by the wayside because I'm so exhausted all the time. I want to have a bigger life. That's what it boiled down to. I wanted more color in my life. And so I thought, I'm just going to work for myself. And it was like a random thought. And I just put it out there, and then people started sending me work. And then after a year of that, I thought, okay, are you going to do this properly, Naomi, or are you going to go back and get a job? So, because it's one or the other, you can't sit on the fence anymore going, well, if the right job came along, maybe, but I'm not sure. I think I want to. And I thought, no, this is what I want to do. This is the path I want to stay on. And so I made a conscious decision in that moment that I was going to do it properly. And, I had to learn how to be a consultant at that point, and do it in my way, in my unique way, not the way anybody else might do it, not trying to fit a mold or inhabit a persona of what a successful consultant looks like, but rather be uniquely me and then bring my gifts and talents to a situation so that I can be of my service and I can give back to me and live that big, colourful life I want to live.
I love that. I'd like to explore the mental process that you went through when you were making the decision. There were some challenges happening in your life at the time. You wanted to do something different, deciding to start the business. What was the actual process that you went through to make the ultimate decision to start the business and be fully committed to it? And the reason I'm asking this is because there's so many times when we allow external factors and fear to hold us back and keep us from doing the things that we truly want to or are meant to do. Obviously, sometimes there's financial decisions. There's a myriad of different things. But I'm curious what you were facing and what you were thinking through and how you prepared yourself to get to that point and say, I'm fully committed. I'm not just interested. I'm committed. I'm all in, and I'm moving forward.
I think, well, the biggest driver was I didn't want to go back and work in an organization. And I thought I want to actually, and I need to earn a good living doing this, working for myself. Otherwise, I'll have to go back because I was supporting children, and I thought I actually need to make a financial decision. The journey to get to being fully committed has been one of trying to step away from the fear of looking stupid or what people might think. And I would advise others and even my children to go, oh, don't worry about that. No one cares, do your own thing, swim in your own lane. But I found myself, it was very difficult, particularly coming out of a corporate career, that, it might look like, what's she doing? Or what's she saying? Or that's not true. And so it took me a while to work through that and go, actually, do I really care? No. I mean, and they don't care either. They're too busy in their own lives. So that took a while. But ultimately, I looked at successful people on the global stage who've just been so brave and fearless, and how rich and full their life appears. And obviously nothing's as it seems, and I think I want that. I don't want to be pale and exhausted and distracted any longer. So it was a process of recognizing this is the life that I want. It was a process of getting clear around what I want in my life, trying to get clear on what is it that I bring and how I can deploy that for the good of others. It was getting over the fear of failure or the fear of judgment or the fear of not having all the answers, letting all of that stress go, and just having an absolute commitment to being of as much service to others as possible, to living my best life and being truest to myself.
Beautiful. Are you where you would like, let me rephrase that question. At this particular moment in time, with where you are in your business, COVID aside, and we're going to chat about that here in a moment, are you where you expect it to be in your business?
I think so. I certainly for 2021, I'm having my best year ever, right? Right now. We're only in February, but I'm having great meetings. I've got great clients. I'm doing great work. I'm loving it. But I mean, you would know, Jay. Well, I'm assuming it's the same. Most people that are working for themselves, you can have periods where you think, I can't see what's coming, and then you have periods where you go absolutely slammed. So you don't have. It can be quite sort of variable in terms of the projects, the money, et cetera. But I started playing around with different things last year in COVID in terms of interviewing people, similar to what you're doing now, actually, interviewing people around the world and having great discussions about leadership, etc. And I would love to be able to do more of that. But at the moment, I'm very busy doing consulting and mentoring. And then it becomes a point where you have to make a decision to go bigger. If I make that decision in terms of taking on employees, I work with associates now, so for big projects we all sort of band together. If I was to take on employees, I might have more space to do that. But at this point in time, I'm very, very happy where I am, Jay.
Excellent. That's fantastic to hear. So tell us, who is an ideal client for your business?
Ideal clients for me. So I have clients at small, medium, and large organizations. But I guess my ideal is that sort of small, growing organization to medium-sized organization. And why I say that is that you can turn the ship very quickly. So they say, I want to go here, and I go, right, these are the levers we're going to pull. And you can see the change, and it happens quite rapidly. And they've got enough budget, enough money to play with if they need to do a couple of things. And I'm not talking about massive, macro, huge, like new technology systems or anything like that, but just if they need to invest, they can. And I feel like they've got enough people behind them. I can just see the impact that I'm having. So that's my ideal sweet spot. Having said that, I work with large organizations too, and I'm working with solopreneurs as well. So it's across the board.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And what are the problems that you solve for your clients?
Yeah, the problems that I solve for my clients is when they say, I just want to put a bit of energy in this place, things just aren't working, or our people aren't happy, or the productivity is low, or our customers aren't happy, or things are breaking, or our leaders aren't leading is a common one. They're not working as leaders. So it's actually coming in and going, right, what do you want to do? and then talking them through and helping. I take what they tell me, and then I help them to actually see what's possible. So I help move it to something even more than what they tell me, and then go, right, let's work backwards from there.
So then you'll create a roadmap for them to be able to achieve what it is they're looking for. And do you help them actually execute in each of those areas?
Yeah, and I work with the top leaders, because if you're going to drive change, you've got to start with the leaders, and the leaders need to be willing to do the work themselves, because they can't change, they can't transform if they haven't transformed. And that doesn't mean I get them in the fetal position, rocking, sucking their thumb or anything like that. It's nothing like that. But it's actually, are they willing to do the work? Are they willing to look at themselves? Are they willing to acknowledge that they might be part of the problem, and look at what things that they're doing that may be working against where they want to go? So things that are just unconscious for them, pointing out, making the unconscious conscious, and pointing out what they're doing that's actually contributing to the situation.
Yeah, those must be some very interesting conversations. I know I've certainly had many on my end. But if you engage with a business and you find that the leadership team, although they say they're interested in making change and creating transformation in the business, you find that they're really not fully on board at the top of the hierarchy. If and when that happens, how do you handle a situation like that?
So I pull out all my influencing powers, but if it gets to the point where the top leader is working against what needs to happen, and they will not play, I have actually opted out of situations and said, I think I've taken this as far as I can. Because if you can't get the leadership team on board, it's very difficult. Even if the leader just says, go ahead and do what you need to do, and just tell me what you want me to do, that's happy days. But if they're actually the problem and working against the direction that they say they want, my goal is to help them to see the role that they're playing and the opportunity cost of not changing, and the possibilities, how great it will be if they can actually make some changes, which can be micro changes. It doesn't have to be wholesale change. Like, sometimes the micro changes make the biggest difference. If I can't change it, then I would walk away from it. But that doesn't happen very often. That's a very rare situation.
So
and sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
My experience is most leaders are genuinely well-intended and want to do the right thing.
Excellent. So give us an example, if you can, of a micro change that could be made, or something that you've recommended and suggested in the past that has led to significant improvement.
So a micro change can be something as simple as, can you stop closing your door all day in your office? Or can you make sure you change the direction you take from your desk to the bathroom so you walk past a different group of people? Or in your team meeting, could you just build in 15 minutes at the start of the team meeting, which is there for general catch up with everybody to find out how they're going at a human level before you jump into task? Or it might be in your team meeting, just call out one person that did something really well yesterday and publicly acknowledge what they did. Like little baby things that cost nothing, take no time whatsoever, will feel a bit uncomfortable because it's not the way perhaps they operate, but the ripple effect of doing that is very, very big. And so when I say micro changes, they're the sort of things that I work with leaders to do. Yes, there's the big things that need to happen at an organizational level in some cases, but often it's the little baby behaviors, and you get what you tolerate. And so the other micro changes is, what are you walking past because you think, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. And then you by walking past, you send a message that that's okay. And then everybody does it. So I start saying, what's the one little baby thing that if you started to call it out and say that's not okay here, it would have a massive impact.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And, it's ironic. That quote, "We get what we tolerate." I just posted about that the other day and gave an example or two around that. And it's so true. We look around our own businesses and our own lives, and that's a quote that resonates with me.
Yeah.
So if we're looking to change, we have to change what we're willing to tolerate at the same time.
Yeah.
So if you were sitting in front of a small business right now, and let's speak to our audience, what would you suggest to any small business, something tactical? And you just shared some great insight just a moment ago, but what else could you share that's tactical that a small business could start to look at internally to improve morale, improve the energy in their organization, take a look at cultural changes? What should they be thinking about, and what can they do specifically?
I saw a great quote yesterday, which I think really sums up what I stand for. And I liked it so much. I thought, oh, why didn't I think of that? That's just such a great way of wording it. But it was basically that people want meaningful work, meaningful relationships, radical candor, and radical transparency.
Ooh.
And I thought, yep, that totally nails it. And that sums up the way, the work that I do. Give them meaningful relationships at work. And how do you do that? If there's one thing COVID has done, it has amplified our human basic need for connection. Everybody wants to connect at a deep human level. They don't just want to talk about task. Find out who I am, ask me how I am, ask me how I'm feeling, have a general chit chat, ask me about my kids, my dog, whatever it might be. Meaningful work, something that's not just, stamp, but something that they feel like they understand where the direction of the organization is going, and they know how their role contributes to that. Radical candor, let's have the real conversations. Let's tell people what we're thinking. We'll give people real feedback so they can do something with it rather than dance around the issue, which is very common in Australia, maybe less so in the US, but certainly in Australia, we're a very nice culture. So people are, we like to, it's all, mate, how are you, mate? Good. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, everyone's good. And, as a result, people are desperate for feedback. Tell me why I didn't get that promotion. Tell me why you're putting me on that project. Tell me why you moved me off that team. Because people go, oh, great job, keep on going. It's like, what's great about it? Why was that great? What you tell me I'm doing a great job, but I didn't get that promotion. So radical candor, just start having the real conversations, and radical transparency. I still see so many people hanging on to information because it's confidential, or I can't get out to the market, or I think I call BS on a lot of that. I mean, absolutely, there's some stuff that's market sensitive without a doubt, but there's a lot of stuff that's not. And we employ adults, and trust is a key platform of any cultural change. And if you want to make a business amazing, you need to have high trust. So how do you get high trust? Well, there's lots of ways, but one of the first ways you do it is you start treating people like adults and sharing information, getting them involved in the problems of the business and saying, I don't know what to do, help me fix this business. And so, I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah, that's really some very critical points made there. And I was having a conversation recently with another business leader, and we were talking about these topics: transparency, candor, honest feedback, etc. And it reminded me of the book Principles by Ray Dalio. Not sure if you've read that one, but I keep that book. It's a very, very interesting book, and Ray lays out all of the principles that he stands by, and outlines very nicely how he's built the culture in his organization. And there were points in that book when I was reading it where it was a bit uncomfortable, because talk about radical candor and radical transparency. You have to, in order to be able to establish and create trust and maintain trust, you do need to be open. And I remember at one point in my corporate career, when feedback was given, they would do it almost in a way where they would build a sandwich. And I'm sure you've experienced this before, where you give a little bit of good news, right?
Yeah.
Something nice to say. And then in the middle of the sandwich is where you're really sharing the information, the real feedback that you want to provide. And then the top layer of the sandwich is something nice to say again. And the challenge that I always had with that is that the individual who you're providing the feedback to, the last thing they hear is, and you do a wonderful job at XYZ. And they don't hear the middle part of the sandwich, the most important piece of it. So they walk away without important information that can help them, right? That can actually help them grow and provide them the necessary tools and resources to be more successful.
Yep.
So it's an interesting one. So let's talk for a moment about processing failure, something that we all deal with. And I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned from failure? And then also, how do you frame failure?
Yeah, I frame it now as an important part of the learning process. It's an important part of growth, and you actually cannot grow to the next level without failure. And I think people think about catastrophic failure, but I don't see failure that way. I mean, of course, you know, at some point in our lives we may experience that, but I see failure as, you know, going in, for me, might be going into a meeting with a new client and just not doing a great job, you know, just missing the cues or saying the wrong thing. It could be giving a presentation and perhaps forgetting some of it. So it feels like failure, and most people, including myself, go into that, oh my God, like what, you know, why did you just do that? You should know, you know better than this. But actually, every single time I fail, it makes me better. And certainly in terms of the big failures, in terms of, say, my marriage, it makes me do the work to actually say, I never want to do that again, like to own my part in it. So in any failure, there's always your part in it at some level. So what was my part in it? What was the learning out of it? And then how do I be better as a result of it? And how do I make sure I never go there again?
Perfect. Yeah. What a wonderful way to frame it, and to use that as a learning opportunity. And just knowing what I do know about you and the conversations we've had, you absolutely don't allow that to stop you from taking action and moving forward, which I think is fantastic, because it can be so crippling.
Oh my God.
And
the paralysis of it. You can go there, but you can't stay there. You have to kind of, it's okay to feel sad and alone and hard on yourself, but you know, like you got to move forward. Otherwise it sucks you down like quicksand.
Absolutely, it does. So I wanted to touch on where we are today with the pandemic. And you had already brought up the fact that you were having these conversations, these interviews with women around the world, and talking about what's going on today, lessons learned, and things that they can share with others that are tuning in. So I think that's incredibly creative, and I love that you're doing that. What else are you doing differently to adapt and thrive? What's changing in your business today?
The most interesting thing for me has been how the world has changed during COVID. Now, in Australia, we've had a much easier ride than you have over there, without a doubt. Like we were an island, we've been able to contain it. Having said that, We still locked people down. We've shut all our borders. We sent people home. A lot of organizations still haven't, they've still got people working 100% from home, which is interesting because we really don't have a lot of it here. But there was still sufficient fear that people felt like they didn't want to go back into the office. And different cities in Australia have been hit to different levels. Certainly where I live, we've had a very easy ride of it. It's like normal life, with the odd outbreak from hotel quarantine, and our border gets shut to the southern states. But other than that, there's no masks. I went to the theatre the other night. We go to the movies. We walk around as normal. So we're very, very fortunate. But having said that, it has driven a change in society, and that change is around wanting a more human connection, wanting work to provide that human connection more than it did before, being much more focused on family, not wanting to go back to the office full time ever. And some organizations haven't gone back at all, and I'll come back to that. But a lot of organizations are moving to like a hybrid model where, some days from home, some days in the office. And during COVID, it was the great humanizer in the sense that everyone was doing their meetings on Zoom. And then, of course, you're seeing people's toddlers climbing on them, or a cat walking across their keyboard, or a dog in the background, or, their partner walking in, or you can see their home behind them. So it broke down the hierarchy in some ways too, because, in large organizations where status is very visible in terms of the cut of their suit or the corner office or the meetings they get access to, now it's just human to human over a Zoom call in your trackies, tracksuit. It's an Australian abbreviation.
I like that.
So that's translated back into the office. And so I'm finding that the organizations are wanting that warmth to translate across. So I'm finding, it's a long way of answering your question, but I'm finding I'm getting to create cultures now, which are what I always wanted to create, which is cultures around the real conversations and the real relationships in the office. And that's probably the main shift for me. How has leadership changed? What does the new leader need to look like? And how can we help leaders feel safe to bring their whole selves to work and to really role model a new way of operating in organizations? Because I think the old structure is dead.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. I think this situation has certainly opened up some excellent opportunities for deeper, more meaningful relationships, better ways of connecting, and looking at how can we truly improve the organizational structure so we give everyone a voice and everyone matters.
Yes.
And so it's a really interesting time. And I wanted to ask you about something else that you're doing, and that is your monthly power lunch or power hour lunch. You tell me what you're calling it, but I would love for you just to share very briefly with us, because I love the idea. How did that come about, and how has that impacted you? What difference has that made?
Yeah, that was really interesting, actually. The way I work, I'm normally in and out of my office and in different companies. And what I found during COVID, I was at home, and so I'm in my home office and I'm by myself, and I'm naturally extroverted. And I thought, well, I need to connect, and I really felt I needed to connect with particularly women. So I reached out to a few people and said, I'm going to start a power lunch, and it's not about power with a capital P, it's about the power of connection, and I'm going to do it on Zoom. We're all going to have lunch together. I want it to be relaxed and authentic. It's not a work call. I'm going to cap it at maximum 8 women, including myself, because I want to have a real conversation. And then I knew in the first 5 minutes of that Zoom call, I had to get them into their hearts. And I found that out the first way, because if I didn't, everyone would just go around and share their LinkedIn profile, which is very visible on LinkedIn. And actually, I'm not interested in that. I can see who you are. So let's connect as women. And it ended up being amazing, Jay. Like every single one that I ran, it was the right people in the room at the right time for the right conversation. I didn't script it. I didn't set an agenda. I said, let's talk about what's going on. And we had the most profound conversations. They were very emotional. These are women who have never met, at the top of their game, different industries. And there'd be people would be talking about suicide, mental health, or children, and imposter syndrome, or whatever it might be. There were people in tears. Friendships have continued. Career moves have resulted as a result of it. It's been amazing. And then towards the end of last year, particularly where I live in Brisbane, there was a lot of people that came to me and said, well, we're all out in the world. Can't we just get together in person? Now, the power lunch was all over Australia and sometimes from around the world. So it made sense to be on Zoom. But I thought, okay, well, there's enough people in Brisbane. So I put it out to those that had attended throughout the year and said, I think I'm going to throw a Christmas party. Would you like to come? And everyone just went, hell yes. And so we had this great Christmas party. And so I'll be setting it up again for this year and want to, do it even bigger and better this year. But it really surprised me, Jay. I didn't think every month I thought, why would anyone want to go to one more Zoom meeting? And yet it continued the whole time. And there was a lot of appetite for it because it comes back to people want connection. And what I find with executive women, and I know this from when I was in executive role as well, it's so lonely and it's exhausting. They're often they're doing a busy job and they're often juggling kids and they're trying to be, a leader, a peer, a wife, a mother, a daughter, like a friend, trying to juggle it all. And it's just exhausting. And I think I just created a safe space for people to be real and feel supported. And yeah, so it was fun.
I love that. What an outstanding idea. And again, for those that are watching or listening right now, take part of that and look to see if there's a way that you can incorporate something like that. If you're looking for more meaningful connections, if you're feeling isolated and you're looking for a way to connect with others and share stories and talk about what's going on, not always about business, right? This is about connecting with one another on a human to human level. So take advantage of that. I think that's an outstanding idea. So what would surprise us to learn about you?
Wow. What would surprise you to learn about me? That I am a classic Gemini for anybody that follows astrology. And what that means is I've got so many possibilities running through my head. Sometimes it can be overwhelming and so many ideas. And meditation is my best friend because it gets me back into my body and gets me going, right, what would my heart do?
Very good. I'm glad to hear that. That can be life-changing. Outstanding. So before I ask my final question to you, where can we go to connect and consume your content?
Well, the best place is LinkedIn, contacting me on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, which is naomi-white.com.
Very good. Well, we will link to your LinkedIn profile as well as your website address in the show notes. So here is my final question to you. If you could work with any client, who would it be and why?
Any client, who would it be and why? Oh my God, Jay, that's a great question. Wow. I think I would like to work with, the Prime Minister of Australia, because I think he's trying to do the best that he can, and I think I could make him even better.
I love that. You said earlier in this conversation you wanted to go bigger. Let's do it. I love that. So Naomi, thank you so very much for joining me today on Business Minds Coffee Chat. I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to connect, to get to know one another a bit, to have this kind of conversation, learn more about you, and thank you for sharing of your knowledge and of your experience and sharing from the heart. I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Oh, it's been such a fun conversation, Jay. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. You're welcome. And for the rest of you, thank you very much for watching and listening. And please take a moment to subscribe and let Naomi and I know what you think about this particular episode. Leave a comment, maybe share one or two takeaways. We would love that. And to enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help build a solid foundation for your service-based business, just visit jayshearbusinessconsulting.com. And until next time, keep learning and growing. And we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear. Jay Shear.
Business Consultant.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.